Greetings and salutations. This is Soup Citizens Obscura, Episode 1, Book 2. Tonight's episode is a reset of sorts. Last book we lost Tyke, the rage-filled, larger-than-life protective sword of the motley. As the book closed, the motley found themselves in the care and consideration of Harmony, who moved into their area in their absence and had been mounting campaigns against the closing in of walls, the wolves and reapers and lost and other members of things that bump the night, closing in around Hyde Park. The Motley's return signaled many things, loss, and a refocusing on what this world and this life means to them. So as the other players arrive, we will commence our exploration of the dark through this lens of the changeling. We will commence the first episode of Book 2, entitled Floods of Shadows. Thank you. Welcome, sir. How are we doing?
I am doing well. I am finally able to join at the beginning of one of these sessions. Hooray.
Yeah, but you sound a little tired. Rough day?
12-hour shift.
Oh, is that all?
And I had to wake up early, so...
Yeah.
We started the day with a stroke alert. So that was how the morning went. Thankfully, after that, things died down and it pretty much was a boring afternoon. But that morning, oh boy.
Oh, nothing like a little hit of adrenaline to get you going?
Exactly. Ooh.
We're 7 minutes out from our hard start, so I'm going to preempt myself. I was admitting some things. I still didn't quite wrap up the new opening going forward, and I still didn't quite wrap up the effective balance of experiences because the lost system of experience isn't really experience. It's things that you have allowed, forced, or were victim of during play that add to the total experience points, which kind of turn into experiences. You only raise attributes and the like with experiences. So yeah, lots of minutia and finding the right balance, because as you guys know, I like doing the dump so that you all can process what the character has gone through and then make appropriate additions as you feel necessary, versus everybody gets 3 this week, everybody gets 2 this week, everybody gets 1 this week. It's one of those where your bonuses are easy to track, like the things that are beyond and above reproach, turning into the skid for really problematic moments and that, like, but getting a trickle, a drip, always makes it seem like not enough, and then you don't want to swing the pendulum too far the other direction either. But all the same, welcome, Jay. How we doing? Hello.
Sorry, didn't have my mouse hooked up and trying to navigate with the touchpad.
Yeah, no, that I hate that aspect of laptops. I always get an optical mouse, and many times I'll also get a wireless keyboard when I hate the touchpad. I just do. It is so. My fingers are too fat for it. Let's just call it what it is. My fingers are too fat for it. I'm oftentimes too hot, and so it's not the best tactile sensation. And then, it's so small.
Yeah, I have a mouse, but they're supposed to be doing our windows today, and they didn't show up, so I had to stash everything.
Oh yeah, you don't want to leave anything out in the open. Last thing you want is, the window guy just, why do they have an extra dragon tail laying around there? That's just, oh my god, look at those sheets. They don't match the wallpaper at all. And who has that mixed match pillows? Oh my god.
I love my mismatched pillows.
I do too, because sometimes you need that slightly more well-used pillow. It works in all the right places. Like sometimes you want it under your elbow. Sometimes, you give it a quick roll and tuck. But if everything's matched, you feel a little bad abusing a perfectly matched set. So having the odd ones makes all the difference in the world. And I'm not normally a huge pillow person, but they're growing on me.
Pillows can match.
Having that satin pillowcase to prevent hair tangles.
I don't have those problems. Every few weeks, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on my boredom and, temporary affects of momentary depression, I just shave everything off. Go low, get rid of everything, and start over. Or, more often than not, just trim it down. My long hair days are significantly in the past. I'm not trying to grow out anything at this point. As low maintenance as possible. I don't even shave regularly because it's so low maintenance. Yeah, I'll get to it.
Briefly catching up with the chat here, it looks like I opened the AI Pandora's box there.
Yes, you did. Lucio, do you remember the original player who was the other Tremere? I forget his name right off the top of my head, but it's Sebastian's father. Him, and then there was two other Australian players that I've had the opportunity to play with, and it's just funny that anything that is remotely new to them becomes their passion, like non-stop. I was just talking with Heshia about that. Like, it's just, and you showed them not dream specifically, but you showed them AI and what it could do, and then Sensei showed them Dream, and it is the newest passion, and I expect to see a huge flood of it until they burn themselves out, which may take a while.
So at first I thought you said anything nude, N-U-D-E, and that made the conversation take on a whole different meaning until I realized you meant new, N-E-W.
Yes, nude. Though I wouldn't put it past the idea of nude as well, because nude is tasteful, it's classy, but nah. But all the same, welcome everybody. How we doing?
I mean, nude is tasteful depending on where you're at in the time period. I mean, we have all those classical naked men statues that have had bits carved off because of, modesty.
No, not their modesty, most assuredly. There's not much to be honest about, I think. But yeah.
My favorite thing about that, though, is that they kept them in a box. And then when they went to go restore them, someone had the unfortunate job of having to dig through a box of marble penises to figure out what belonged with what.
Yes. Well, every little bit of practice helps, I suppose.
Right?
Get Kevin. He seems to have an eye for these things. What do you mean by that? Well, Well, there was your nice sprint abroad in Greece. That's But all the same, welcome. We are officially at the hard start, so you know what that means, because I'd been waiting and just pausing and intending to a little bit of admitting. I'm going to sneak away for the last smoke of the night until later. And give me 4.5 minutes, and I'll be right back. Mingle amongst yourselves, and then we will dive in with the first episode of Obscura Book 2. Tonight's episode is going to be entitled Floods of Shadows. There's a lot and a little that we hopefully will be able to make it through to. So, see you guys in roughly 4.5 minutes, and I'll be right back.
All right, see you then. All right, so while he's gone, let's figure out how we can absolutely bust open the economy with these contracts. Does anyone have some idea of how we can make as much silver and gold as humanly or changelingly possible?
Me.
You can hold people down and threaten to rub burgers in their eyes.
That's certainly one method. Did he just disappear out of existence?
Maybe. You just made him explode.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
There was an update that was going to haunt me until I did it.
Understandable.
Yeah. I have that little green arrow that's just like, hey, I'm here. And I was like, yeah, whatever.
The green candy-like arrow, it calls to you.
Actually, now that you
Probably, it probably tastes like mint.
Yeah, it's the wrong shade of green.
Aurora can manipulate objects to previous versions of themselves, so they could corner the antiquities market. Like find something that's usually new.
That would be useful. Another idea I potentially had. I use my Kith blessing to just keep producing like bottles of ink. We sell them as many as we can. Just a whole like manufacturing process of me creating ink and just selling it. But here's the thing. My elemental power also lets me act through the ink. So, by spreading and selling the ink throughout the world, I will create a widespread spy network where I can find out all sorts of information on anyone because I can just see through the ink.
Well,
or better yet, I will know what is written down on all the ink.
combine that with my mirror thing. Although I have to have had to look in the mirror. It's fine.
We can do it the old-fashioned way and steal it. I have hostile takeover where I can bypass all security systems, including cameras.
I mean, if you want to take the easy way.
Right.
Hey, I am a fairist. Suffering and strife and making efforts is for the lower changelings.
You know what?
That's
fair.
There is a lovely resurgence of interest in fountain-tipped pens, so...
Ooh, I see. I think I get what you're working at.
We have someone that can make boutique fountain pens, right?
I just read that contract actually extends to the rest of you, if I so wish.
Oh, how generous of you.
So yeah, we'll start this little thing where we make some fountain pens, the nice and shiny silver ones, of course, so that they have a reflection.
Antique fountain pens.
Right.
Let's combine our ideas.
Well, for me to use my power, that they have to have a reflective surface.
And then we'll sneak in and steal them.
Aha, it's the ultimate crime. We sell the pens and then we steal them back so that our customers, now left penniless, must buy them from us again.
I swore they were just right here.
Ah, yeah, it's the darndest thing. Well, luckily I have some extras.
Right? That looks exactly like the one I bought. Yeah, it looks exactly like all of them.
Related to crimes related to changeling magic. Or possibly related, depending on how it can be abused. I discovered there's a goblin contract that literally just lets you pluck memories out of people. Just reach in their brain and just yoink it out. And I had the idea that at one point in time, Kira may have known this contract, but intentionally removed the memory of it from herself. I actually don't know if you can use it on yourself, but there's nothing in its description that says you can't.
Not.
That reminds me kind of like a pensive in Harry Potter. They really put all the memories. But then I have a question with that, because does it state that once the memory is plucked, like, do you forget it forever, or is it you still have your memory, but somebody else just gets to share it?
As far as I remember when I read the description, it is literally removed from the person's mind, so they are unable to remember it, but I could be mistaken.
So it's more like when a vampire uses forgetful mind or whatever?
Yeah, actually, I think I can pull it up. Where in the world is it? Yeah, Blessing of Forgetfulness. Success, the changeling pulls away the memory of a single continuous incident, sticking to her fingers like cobwebs. The memory could be of a conversation, yada yada yada. Target's mind creates a false, plausible, and harmless memory to replace the erased one. The changeling may make suggestions, such as you stayed in to watch TV. This contract removes memories permanently, but conclusive evidence that the event did happen can convince the target he forgot about it. Storyteller determines what constitutes conclusive evidence, and on an exceptional success, no amount of mundane persuasion or evidence can convince the target the event happened.
So even though you have it on video camera,
you would literally, like, the victim would literally just say, "No way, that's edited, that's photoshopped."
you hired an actor.
It wasn't me. But we have you saying your name, your social security number. It wasn't me.
It was me.
That's your birthmark. It is distinctive. You've won awards. You've been in magazines. That is your birthmark. It wasn't me.
It's makeup.
It looks more like a tattoo to me.
I so got that reference that you just gave, and I'm cackling right now.
Well, the world is a magical place. The world is Tahiti. And yes, Tahiti is in the world, but very much so, Tahiti is a magical place, and so too is the world of this particular modeling. As we prepare to dive in with both feet, both guns blazing, and everything in between, what are our questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off? Excellent. Lovely, beautiful silence, testing that we are reading off out of the same book, if not the same page, chapter and verse. And as such, my many boundlessly immortal thanks for the opportunity to play. And I don't think it can be said more succinctly. The opportunity to play with you all. You all have brought a variety of thought, perspective, and perception, completely and totally new and solely your own, to each of these characters that we've had the opportunity of exploring their existences. Because lives don't quite add up to what they've done. And there has not been one character played who has not been involved in levels of epic that in and of themselves would make a boundless few volumes of stories and episodes and books and TV shows and movies and the like. Whether the dark, personal, introspective moments or the large, grandiose set pieces where they're hanging out of cars, being exploded off of buildings, making leaps of faith, and otherwise bringing each other back from the dead. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So, from the bottom of my heart to the top of my mind, thank you, and thank you. And without too much further ado, until we don't on my part, specifically in beating this horse until it is long past resurrected and died again, this is officially Soup City Sins Obscura, Book 2, Episode 1, Floods of Shadows. When we last left our motley, they were becoming a motley. When we last left our motley, they were feeling the effects of loss without any fact therein. The world is, after all, a magical place, and all things are in fact connected. So whether it is the smallest mote of dust to the largest continent, it can be felt by those who are open to feeling it. And Arcadia is nothing. And all Arcadians, the changelings, and all of the varietudes in between are nothing if not connected. There is a metaphysical magic that binds and bounds all of them. A tapestry, if you will. A veil that ties everything into this brightly colored cloth of shadow and light. And each thread pulled changes the way that that light filters in, changes the way that the shadows dance around them. So we pick up days later. Unlike the kindred, who are bound by night and eternal, endless dark. Unlike the lupines, who are bound by a ever-shifting kaleidoscope of violence, both physical, emotional, and spiritual. The world of the lost, the portion of this shadowed domain that they inhabit, is not one of any singular thing. They are children of both light and dark, of colors unimagined and sounds unheard. They are, by dint of their continued existence, magical beings of flesh, which has its whole constellation of possibilities inherent to them. So, picking up several days after the spectral, whispered threats of a power beyond sight, of a being that is neither alive nor dead, nor has ever lived, nor has ever died, but exists in the realm where all things dreamed of are real, and all things real are dreamed of, where the questions come after the answers, and where the answers themselves are parables, riddles, and cones, illuminating nothing but shining brighter than 1,000 suns. How and what occupies the motley's time since that threat, since that night, since re-emerging back into this world, and now? Starting in anti-alphabetical order with Kira.
Okay, Kira, I think. How much time did you say it was? A week?
A couple of days.
A couple days. Okay. I think Kira's time is going to be spent first coping with the fact that she unintentionally killed someone in the hedge. Two, coping with the fact that 6 months have passed and they're unsure what their situation in the world is, but they're also, I think, going to be spending some time trying to catch up with the things that they've missed, namely what's going on with their fetch, if there's any news about their missing sibling, and maybe just checking in on their family. Not being seen by them, presumably, so that they do not suddenly have a suspicion about there being two Kiras, the fetch and her, but yeah, I think that's the plan mainly.
Okay. Hazel.
You're muted.
So basically, she would just be, working on settling back in, picking up with odd jobs, signing up for that martial arts class that she's been attending because, having no fighters amongst her little group, aside from the one, was not a great experience. So, yeah.
Okay. Harmony.
She would spend time trying to get a handle on what's going on in her territory there, any news or happenings, and try to roust any ne'er-do-wells that she came across. Other than that, she probably just spend a little time with her touchstone.
Okay. And lastly but not leastly, Aurora.
The first thing on Aurora's mind would probably be looking for information about where Tyke works. She needs to know 100% whether or not something happened to him. I know she knows inherently, but she needs to see it. If there's a body to recover, she's going to look for that. I mean, I know there might be a very slim chance of that out of character knowing what happened to him, but she's going to try anyway. And if there is a body, she'll try to make arrangements to have it recovered. Outside of that, she needs to talk to her old landlord as to what the fuck and see if there is a way for her to get another place to live. Because currently she's homeless. So those are her key and important things.
Excellent. So a very full amount of activity, from beating the bushes low and high for various factors to actually engaging with the world around you via job and skulking and stalking. That being the case, to approximate the time that has transpired, would you be so kind, starting with Kira, would you be so kind as to roll would you be so kind as to roll your clarity and plus your word and give us all the result. Hazel. 1 second.
Are we assuming we're back to full glamour?
Yes.
Yes.
Oops. Oh.
1.
Excellent. We're off to a great start. So Hazel, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your presence and your clarity for me, please? And Harmony, beating the bushes, staying abreast of things, and contacting and dealing with the very real, painfully problematic aspects of your touchstone and the world in which you reside. There are several things that could come into play. So if you have any specialty in regards to either investigation or streetwise, you'd roll that plus your clarity. And Aurora, yours is also a presence roll. So would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your presence and your clarity? Don't forget to add your, everything that you might. Any specialty that would apply in regards to if you have contacts, if you have that sort of merit, you may of course add.
Okay. Presence and what was the other two?
Clarity.
Oh, presence and clarity and anything that may help.
Now, the reason for the clarity, just so that you all are aware, it is a test of balancing what you all are, which is a being of no world in both worlds, both the mundane and banal as well as the glamour filled and truly magical. There are moments throughout every day where a bit of the unseen magic of the world may in fact play a part. There's a portion in which it would be easier to manifest things by tapping into the energies all around you and of Arcadia. However, as with most things, when it comes to balancing and finding one's way, resisting that urge and not giving in to the natural depression and despair of the modern age is a challenge. You have to mix a little bit of the salty with the sweet. And people are notoriously difficult. People are notoriously, caught up in their own existences and refusing the simple milk of human kindness, refusing to be kind, refusing to be just, refusing to actually listen instead of wait for their turn to talk, refusing to simply move a hair faster or allow you to move around them, refusing to open their eyes to all that they actually are privy and benefiting from. Being self-made persons, ignoring that it took 1,000 hands to get them where they were. And in Kira's case, touching base with yourself, because that's what it is, as far as anyone who is aware that your fetch is not you, which is everyone that is not your fetch. The truth of the matter is that you are a magical creature, and it leaks, it ebbs from you with every breath. Your fetch, also magical of a sort. And while it doesn't leak from them, while it doesn't stain their environment, they have lived a relatively charmed existence. They have 2 part-time jobs doing the exact same thing. They work in a bookstore. And they work at the Harold Washington Library. And they're only getting paid 35% over average wage for both positions. Either position, working part-time, would support them. But they are around books and music and people that love them, and they lived a charmed existence They meet interesting people every night because they tend to work very late, very often. They're exposed to a world that most don't even know exists, and they blithely glide and skim along the surface. Their favorite band is a punk, pop, rock, ska influenced rendition of Baby Chorus, which is a revitalization of a band that their mother fell in love with 30 years ago. The new members of Baby Chorus all taking on personas reminiscent of the original members. There's the new lead singer, a young kid, couldn't be any older than Nas X, and he prowls and prances around the stage like a lion. It's a show that you have to see. And supposedly they did a concert a couple of weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, I forget when, in Milwaukee. They did a full old school 1980s stadium filling concert, and I had to work, but I was able to watch it on YouTube, and there's a lot of TikTok. But it's a great band. And oh my god, there's a punk rock bar. It's a hidden gem up on the north side. It's just off of Milwaukee. It's just north of Damon. It is ridiculously hard to get into because you have to be a real punk. And I was able to get in. Me and my friend, and the stories abound, and you can feel their passion growing, and you can feel them reliving those moments, and you can feel their happiness as they're relating to their best friend, your childhood neighbor, their experiences. And it's only as they're into their second story as to how great the bands that they listen to and the music that they're into that you realize that they're repeating themselves. You realize that they're being indulged. You realize that instead of someone being rude, and you already told me that, yeah, I know that everyone's hanging on their every word. If that was you would never have to scrounge for glamour. You would never have to sip and sup from stolen moments. If that was you, the weight of the attention given to them would supercharge you. You wouldn't have needed to fell a tree. You wouldn't have needed to, cause the end of a thing. You wouldn't have needed to. That little bit of attention that they are receiving on a consistent, constant basis, given to them freely, it's hard watching that happen. It's hard realizing that in their circle, your circle of trusted loved ones, they are feeding off of them, that they are taking a bit of their shine because it's being so freely given and offered. They're living your life, the best version of your life, both as what you could have been if you had not fallen across the hedge, and what you are now, having survived coming back across the hedge. And it is enough to cause the firmament of your mind and heart to quake and quiver. There is a hidden, unrealized volcano that's beginning to give you indigestion and heartburn. And instead of allowing yourself to erupt, instead of allowing that back blast of volcanic ash to consume you, you check in with your family. You check in with your mother and your father. You check in and have a search for your sleep. And watching them with the old detective, the head of Novak Investigations, instead of it putting a damper or putting a cap on all of that fire, you are even more angered because you watch as they sign over another large check, which he pockets it. You watch as for the umpteenth time, there hasn't been any result, but there have been some clues and some good feelers, and part of you feels that he is simply stringing them along. Part of you feels that their hope is being taken advantage of. Part of you feels that the old man Novak is purposefully. Now the question is, with this eruption brewing, does Kira stick to it? Does she continue staying near enough to know just how poorly the world is treating those that she loves and how great it is treating someone who stole her existence?
She's gonna stick around a little bit longer out of sight to try and... Not really sure why, really, she wants to stick around, but some part of her just feels like it's not right to leave at this moment. That she wants to find out exactly how much, like, what is going on here. Trying to find out why they keep getting fooled or...
Excellent. That being the case, would you be so kind as to roll your composure plus stealth and make sure to replace one of your die with a glamour die. And while that roll is happening, Hazel, the world is not kind, and everyone knows this. But with a little luck, you can make it mutually beneficial to those around you. Their callousness and their disregard of their fellow man, making the path easier for you to glide along, making it easier to get from point A to point Z without having to stumble through those I's, J's, H's, and, well, U's. The last few days have been a prime example of that. There's been one gig after the next. There's a delivery that had you carrying what amounted to a cooler, with it feeling as if it was loaded with those little Capri Sun, those little drink pouches. There was something liquid, something like that. You didn't bother to look in because the cooler was sealed with that double-sided bright orange tape, and you know that whatever is inside was needed. And you thought and you expected that such things should have been delivered through ambulances, helicopters, police even. But this cooler you picked up from a dock down just off of Fulton, the meat market, and you deposit it at a what looks like a bank building, but it was clearly not a bank building. But the person meeting you outside, a late 20s, maybe early 20s, acidic gentleman, the full curls along the ears, the hat, the plain white, the tassel sticking out of the back of the shirt. It seemed off, but a job's a job. He thanked you profusely, even tipping you relatively exorbitantly. It was only as you noticed that his missing finger that all of the things that could be happening started to play havoc. And instead of turning into the skid of curiosity and all of that, you went about your night. You went about your day. You continued living your best version of your life because it was easier in this moment. And it's only as you find the perfect martial arts class, a class that is come as you can. It's not a set number of lessons. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to buy any equipment. They give you a list of things that you might want, but they have spare as long as you show up clean and ready to roll and toss and follow along. Whatever your level, whatever your interest, they were able to accommodate you. That is weird. What makes it worse, as far as weird, is it's halfway across the town. It is in the printing district off of Printers Row. The building is clearly dating back several hundred years. The yellow brick that they don't make in the area anymore. And the fact that the front portion of the place is a bookstore. Inside is a tree. You actually walk through into this Shinto-esque, Japanese anime-esque shrine. Like you step through once you walk through the hallway that is the tree in the center of this building that is still somehow growing, you can smell the life and freshness to it. There are small rodentia high up in the boughs, and you're not sure whether it's a squirrel or what, but you know that there's small living things in that tree because the tree itself is still alive. And because you do have a voidable lease, a month-to-month lease, your landlord doesn't care as long as you pay. And while it's hard enough getting the money together to pay, somehow they're not about the money. They're about providing homes for wayward women like yourself. Your neighbor, fresh back from their 7th prison term, the lady who lives upstairs had clearly been involved in human trafficking. And, well, nearly everyone in the building has a story that would break another's heart, and they keep trying to reintegrate into polite society. They keep trying to pick themselves up off the ground. And in the middle of all of this, being as successful as she is there anything pertaining to what she has experienced, what she's experiencing, that she attempts to pay additional attention to? Is there anything that stands out that she may have needed to do?
Needed, maybe not so much, but she is going to keep her eyes and ears open for any thoughts, words, sightings of the wayward children that were with the rats.
Okay. That does not, in fact, need a roll, but we know where she's heading. We know where she's leaning. And that brings us to harmony. The truth of the matter is, there's no reason. There never is. There's no reason for the churlish selfishness of mankind. Never. Because you get more with honey than you do with shit, but everyone heaps it and tosses it and swims in it with such regularity that they don't even realize the vinegar they're pouring all over themselves and the world around them. And there's a rarity. But in this moment, in these moments, between beating the bushes and trying to not be swallowed up by the full weight of Arcadia, because it's hard balancing what is with what was and what could be, when you literally can, unfortunately, do almost anything. With the right words, with the right agreement, there is no reason that anything cannot happen. Which is the reason why spending time with Thomas is such a much needed counterweight to being swept up and swept off, to being lost in the everyday magic, to disappearing in the chase for those who would do wild and monstrous things simply for a little bit of the sauce. Thomas works as a day trader, which works out for you because he has the opportunity of spending as much time as you need or want without suffering too much. He doesn't have to choose between spending or taking days off of work and then eating ramen for 4 to 5 days afterwards. He makes decent money. He lives decently well. He, unfortunately, much like yourself, is lonely. He's usually alone or with only superficially relevant individuals in his life. People that help him make connections and know when a certain stock has the opportunity to rise based on bills that are being passed. And the conversations with those other people tend to be about getting the ends to meet and shake hands. Those conversations with other people tend to always be just superficially relevant to anything going on in their existence. Those conversations with the others are not the opportunity for him to truly be himself. Has a boyish smile and a twinkle in his eyes when he really starts talking about the nerdy things that he's been interested in. He paints models. He builds models. His kitchen countertops, instead of being filled with all of the mindless devices that everyone buys, no Foreman grills or air fryers or Instapots or any of the other many counter eating devices, are filled with miniatures, hand-painted things that he's managed to put together. Spend each one of them counting for hours and hours of him alone, hunched over his desk, a tiny paintbrush in hand, magnifying glasses on his face, and having the times of his life. His love of all things model and creating small bits of art is what you initially fell in love with him about, because he was able to see the magic. He's able to see nearly the full real you. He knows when you're dimming yourself. He knows when you are not giving in to your nature, and he always calls you on it. He always. Why aren't you as bright as you usually are?
I'm sorry? Bright, you say?
You disappear, and your light stops shining. Reminds me of that Peter Pan. You know, he had this little fairy, and when she was happy, she's glowing and she's sprinkling dust all over the place, and she's bright enough to light a dark room. But then when she gets sad or she goes away, she's nowhere near as bright. That reminds me of you. I don't know why. You're not short, you're not blonde, and you're not wearing a green dress, but yeah, that reminds me of you.
You should know by now that I'm always sad, Thomas dear. Perhaps if you clapped your hands.
You're not always sad. I've seen you smile, and actually smile, when you forget people are looking. You try to hide it, but you're not slick. I can see. And the conversation goes much the way that it always does. Swooping and swirling, dancing between things, coming close to speaking the truth into being, and then flitting away. Just when he's dancing right on the line and is almost able to step over, he falls back or runs away, or the world intrudes. And every time he's standing on that line, every time he's almost reaching greatness, his very real, mundane, boring, depressingly absent of bright, shining emotions wins out. And you're stuck there on the precipice, edged along until you're almost there. The glamour and emotionality of him leaking, reaching out towards you, and then he shuts everything down. Hard, cold, and fast. Once more back into the mundanity. Some alarm will go off on a laptop or a computer somewhere in his home, and he'll run and check that, or something will go off on his phone and he'll pick up that plastic box of foreverness, and he's gone. the aspects of him that could be truly and totally fulfilling to you, no longer relevant, no longer there. Just a banal, cold shower of nothingness. And yet, his presence sustains you. Between hunting for those who would break the rules of your kind and those who would break the rules of comity, as it were, because not everyone can be everywhere. Not everyone has the ability to move between moments and thoughts. And Hyde Park is a very large place. And Mr. Wednesday is a very dedicated person, a chaos gremlin who does things to simply because. Of all of the many reapers who've begun besetting the area because of the shifting allegiances and alliances of the courts, Mr. Wednesday is by far the most affecting, because he rarely does things himself, and when he does, it is such a level and such a breach that even the blind will be able to see that other things such as yourself inhabit the world. And speaking of other things inhabiting the world, Aurora, there shouldn't be any reason, there shouldn't be any way, but your landlord has an almost complete change of heart. Not that they ever actually have one. What matters to them being the money, what matters to them being the simple transaction, and while they are not a bad person, they believe that money talks and bullshit runs a marathon, and anything that is not money is in fact bullshit. The old caring person that they once were, buried beneath the real weight of needing to provide for their family. And while they care for you individually, there is a need to provide. There is a drive in them that holds money as inviolate. And it's clear that the person inhabiting your apartment is paying, not just paying, but paying extraordinarily well. They're paying above market value. They paid for a year in advance, and they still pay month to month. I don't understand. And yet, all of your things, most of your things that were not left in the apartment was moved to theirs. Seeing your fish tank, seeing your jewel making supplies, your small pliers, the wires, the smelting miniature kiln, all of the things that were dancing around the back of your mind is gone forever, and you'd have to recoup your loss there in their apartment on premises. The family keeps an apartment on the premises to keep a watch on things. When there's things that need to be fixed overnight, they'll have one of the family members stay there. And instead of them needing to have a family member stay there, you have been allowed to move in and occupy the space. You have been allowed to be close to that feeling of airiness that you made your home, that feeling of waves ever moving that you made your home. You are able to live in the space, if not in the apartment. And in the doing, you've seen countless individuals come and go at all hours of the day and all hours of the night. They don't stay long, 10, 15 minutes here, 20, 25 minutes there. One stayed a couple of hours, and there's always a air and feeling of a party going on nonstop, just people coming and going. And you're not sure how that being upstairs in your apartment is making a living, but whatever they're doing, however they're doing it, is providing them with far more money than they should be able to accumulate. And while that mystery is a mystery of nosiness and butting in, the mystery in regards to Tyke is not. finding where they worked, knowing to search the officially licensed and unlicensed strip clubs, knowing the sort of person they were. It doesn't take long to find. It takes even less to ingratiate yourself with the staff and begin to learn what happened. They were beaten to death. That Sweetie Pepper, the new owner, is the person that did it, and that he seems untouchable. There was video taken of Tyke falling down the stairs. There was videotape taken of Tyke, and every time you try to get someone to tell you, get you the opportunity to talk with the new owner, they have something else they need to do. They're pulled away, or someone's calling them, or what have you. And you stopped by several mornings when the girls were getting off and they should have time to talk. All to little or no avail. It's almost as if some cold, dead hand is working them like puppets, keeping them from. That is until you catch Roxy leaving. Roxy has eyes that look like they've always been crying. Roxy has a fake smile that they put on when they think people are looking at them. And Roxy has a paleness about her that attracts the eye. Roxy has that it factor that makes you want to, you're not sure what or how, but there's something about her that calls to you. There's something about her, like there's a simmering rage, a joy of battle, or a joy of survival that keeps them from ever being what they really are, the true them beneath all of the masks that they clearly wear. And as you follow Roxy down to the Huck Fed, and you corner Roxy there at the counter, she gets her usual. A Long John and a cruller with several heaping cups of black coffee. And you slide into the counter next to her. And instead of jumping or being surprised, her hand falls into her purse and she looks over her shoulder at you. Why are you following me?
I know you know my friends, and I'm going to find them. I know what people are saying happened to them, but I want to know the truth because I know I'm being lied to. And I know you know. And I know you're not like the others around you. There's something different about you. And I think you'll be able to tell me what happened to him after what I was shown. It's important to me that if he is well and truly gone, that I can take him back to where he belongs. Please.
You really don't want to do that. Like, for your sake and for my sanity, I don't want another death on my hands. Are you sure you're not gonna take my advice and just chalk it up to the city doing what the city does?
Her jaw kind of tightens and goes firm. I feel like the only reason that what happened is because we weren't there for him. So I need to be there for him now. So no, unfortunately, I can't take your warning, and I need to know.
I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you this. He was... I don't know if you knew your friend. I don't know if you really knew Tyke. I didn't really know him. But at the end, I know you're gonna say that I'm crazy, but at the end, when it was all said and done, when it happened, it's like his entire body turned, like his entire body turned red, and I was crying, but I tell you, he was easily 3, maybe 4 times taller than he was, and where he was laying, I promise you, that wasn't just the building settling afterwards, like everyone says, like Sweetie says now, but he took up the entire space. There was all of these scars on his skin. I saw it. And when Sweetie had his goons try to move him, they were shooing everybody out of the back area so they had time to clean things up. It took 4 of them to lift him up. And when they threw him in the back of that truck, it sagged as if it was carrying a full load of, I don't know, bricks, metal, just something super heavy, like a safe. I don't know, but the shocks, the springs, whatever they used to hold them up, the bed of the truck, it dropped nearly to the ground. And I shouldn't have looked. I shouldn't have tried to keep watch. I shouldn't have been there. But I've seen those trucks before. It's my grandmother died. There's this funeral home out in Dalton. I remember the drive because as we were making it up this long road that it seems like it took forever, the castle just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And I know my grandmother was dead. I know that she wasn't with us anymore, but it was like I was going into a fairy tale. And stupid me, I felt happy. I knew she'd be fine. I knew she'd be taken care of. And I made the mistake. I don't know why I'm telling you that. Look, there's a funeral home in Dalton. It looks like a castle. That's where the truck comes from. The guys that were working with Sweetie Pepper, they were dressed in like, I don't know, like a UPS, but darker, and instead of yellow, like gold. That's all I can tell you. I can't really tell you anymore. I don't know anymore, and you don't want to go looking. It's not the first time that Sweetie had made someone disappear and used those guys. And look, I don't know how to help you. And she gets up, leaving her half uneaten donut and most of her cup of coffee, and heads off. Leaving you sitting with those details with those facts. The coffee growing cold up there, right alongside the donut. The scent of sweet filling your nostrils. And you look around Huck Fens and you see several small nuclear families. You see several people that probably haven't had family longer than they've had themselves. You see individuals that at this hour of the morning look like zombies. The clothes hanging off of them ill-fittingly. And it's hard to not feel that bit of chill, that bit of winter creeping along your spine. And speaking of things creeping along your spine, just because you can do a thing doesn't always mean that you should. And that's especially true for you, Kira, as you loiter and you watch and you give yourself over to being invisible. It's a feeling, it's a mindset, it's a philosophy that most of the hospitality staff of most hotels and motels have learned. How to seem invisible, how to be sad dressing. You don't want the guests to notice you. You don't want to be perceived by anyone. And yet, there's a weight and a cost to it. You are successfully able to stick close enough to your mother and father, though only your father of blood, once Novak leaves. You're able to stick close enough and proud near enough that you're not quite able to make out the words, but you can feel them talking through the windows and the walls. You can just about make out some of what they're saying. And they're having a small spat, and your father, of course, heads off to the office and begins working on whatever it is that he's working on. He types and writes and is always at the computer nearly nonstop. Your mother, his newly married wife, settles in front of the mirror in the bedroom. And as only as she's sitting there in front of the bedroom mirror, her little array, perfumes and makeups and powders and tinctures and all manner of things there on the counter. You watching from the window, just out of sight. You watch as the mirror fogs over. You watch as she sits looking at herself become something else. Something darker. Something less humanoid in its seeming. Far more beautiful, but something else. And then she begins singing to herself. Starts off as a hum, tune you recognize but can't possibly place. Then it becomes words that you can feel through the wall. And even though you know that she, with her back to you, looking into the mirror, is the one making the sounds, the mirror begins to move and vibrate as if there's a bass causing it to rattle in place. And it's only as the image in the mirror begins scanning her background that you slip away, lest you be perceived by whatever it is that is perceiving her through the looking glass.
Now knowing this, Kira is going to hurry away quickly to try and find Hazel ASAP. Because things suddenly went from bad to worse.
And it is 36 after the hour. Let's take a quick 10, and we'll pick up with Harmony and their investigation, stalking, attempting to corral Mr. Wednesday. See you guys back here at 46 after the hour.
Yeah, in a few.
Sorry for my tardiness, folks. Everybody back?
Yep.
Present.
Yes.
Okay. So, as promised, when we stepped away, the touch of the banal that falls over the touch of banality, the touch of the everyday, the touch of the mortal, the touch of the infernally average that falls over Thomas reminds Harmony of her mandate. There are certain facts of their existence that can't be denied. And while in every other sense of the word, it is the fantastical, it is the extraordinary, it is the magical in a way that defies the everyday. Mr. Wednesday is out there. And unlike the other packs, unlike the other motleys, unlike the other privateers, buccaneers, and raiders, there's an insidious danger to Mr. Wednesday, because he has found a way to normalize the grotesquely magical. He has found a way to embed himself in the banal and still be 100% other. He has found a way to unveil himself, to rouse the Arcadian in him and be accepted by the banal on a consistent, constant basis. He is able to hide in plain sight. He is able to embed himself in the disenfranchised youth of the world. He is able to, and there lies the big dilemma. To what? Each of his seemingly chaotic, random actions against Hyde Park specifically, and the Changeling as a whole, seems to be working towards undermining their ability to collect glamour. He's executing a plan, and he's following through, and each success and each setback seems to only make him stronger, more effective. How long before his touch of specific madness makes it impossible and for the lost in Hyde Park, in specific, in the city in general? How long before he causes one of the keepers and their huntsmen and their wild hunt to do so openly? How long before he thins the hedge so significantly that they may traverse backwards, forwards, in all manner of ways at will? How long before he brings other reapers, other packs, other motleys under his control?
Not on my watch.
And so, heading to accomplish your holy mission, heading to accomplish what it is that you accomplish, what are, or what is, Harmony's first actions?
Probably just to listen to the word going around on the street when people are talking about, see if anything piques her interest in that particular avenue.
Okay. Because it is such a... Does she have any merits, contracts, blessings with pledges that might help her with either stealth or streetwise or investigation?
Oh, she's got all kinds of things to help her with stealth. She has Ermine's winter coat, which I believe adds 3 dice to her stealth. And then paralyzing. No, that's the cow people. Hostile takeover lets her bypass security systems.
Okay. So that being the case, would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus stealth? Make sure you replace one die with your glamour die. And let fly, rolling as high as you possibly can to approximate our time, continuing to beat the bush and try to pinpoint through skulking, sneaking, slipping, dancing between moments of those on the street, those in the area.
One second here. All right, is that plus with the +3 from the contract?
Yes.
Navigating with the touchpad is very slow.
Yes.
she'll spend the willpower because this is important to her. And to great effect.
In the course of looking for wrong, it is far easier to find than any other thing in the world. And while every crime has a singular thing in common, which is opportunity, wrong doesn't need an opportunity. It just needs any day that ends in Y. So sussing and sourcing through all of the wrong that abounds. And while it is not the wrong that most suspect in an urban area, they're not muggings or jackings or purse snatching or simple B&E. There's none of that exists within Hyde Park, at least not in such a level that it attracts even so much as local attention. Yeah, chains are snatched. Yeah, people are occasionally beat up or incidentally shot or stabbed, but it's not to the level, and does it ever rarely reach the level of being just this, just in, another. No, it's quiet. It is even the over-the-top violent things that happen are kept quiet and as well kept and private as possible. The wrongs that abound in Hyde Park are the wrongs of, well, lovers. The wrongs in Hyde Park are the sort of things that people say, oh, that's none of my business. A little embezzling, a little insurance fraud, a lot of infidelity and breaking of trust. All things kept as quiet as possible. It makes sussing out Mr. Wednesday's nefarious energies like finding a needle in a haystack of needles. More of the same, more of the same, more of the same, more of the banal, more of the same, more of the same. And it's only as one takes a step back that you realize that that small needle you were looking for was not the needle you were looking for. What you were looking for was all around you. Every little small nudge where the acceptance of evil through the silence of good men prospers. Every small push nudging the world in a direction of his choosing, through himself, through his agents, through cutouts, through various small everyday wrongs. Just when Harmony believes that there is not going to be anything that is not either connected or directly related to an accidental outcropping of Mr. Wednesday's nefarious spore, she finds out that they're in the center of all of the everything that is Hyde Park, the melting pot of people. They're in the center of learning. They're on the campus. They're in the campus is, well, the reason why he struck the Reynolds Club. It was close to an influential professor that he hoped to spur into action. The professor whose reach is literally up and down the social strata of the area, who's been tenured there longer than anyone can dare put a finger on, who is in fact the philosophy department, the head of the philosophy department, who's helped broker and brook the training, the methodologies, the curriculum for the entirety of the philosophy department. His reputation is legendary, though no one can ever really put a finger on having had many classes with him. All of his classes at night, all of his classes small, typically populated by young men from various places around the state and around the country. And while you're able to get every bit of detail that you possibly can, there is a big hole in the center of it all, an absence of factual information, and you spend a good time skulking. You spend a great amount of time getting to know the various students and faculty and sundry other entities involved with the philosophy department. And why is his classes always at night? And why is his classes at various places throughout the campus? And then you realize why Mr. Wednesday is targeting the school and its properties. Someone that influential, following sway to the magics of the changeling, he'd be able to literally change everything except for the gravity of Hyde Park. A person who has for generations been able to affect the minds and thought patterns of every member of the mortal populace in one way or the other. Think about how effective you could be if you can keep one of the officers that patrol the area off kilter. Think about how effective you could be if, through a friend of a friend and a cousin or a younger brother, younger sibling of the alderman, the local ward boss, how many effective dreamers could you lock into your version of reality through their connections to someone and something that has had a hand on Hyde Park going back generations? And sadly, one of the many things that always comes up is no person is an island unto themselves. And as effective as you can be singularly, well, as these last few months have proven, alone, you're good. There's just not enough manpower in you to be everywhere that you need to be to effectively accomplish your goals.
Good thing I met some people who are willing to be part of my little court. They may not know they're willing, but they'll find out.
Your only option is yes. And eventually you'll get there. So as those thoughts are percolating, those plans are erecting themselves, and Harmony decides on how to begin setting that in motion, Aurora, having learned what you learned, what would be your next maneuver? What would be your next move?
Now that she has had it confirmed for her and knowing enough of what she knows, she's going to find her playmates so that she can let them know what all has gone on. Probably starting with Kira, because she remembers where they like to hang out.
Kismet, fate, destiny, predestination, and all manner of many words to ascribe to fate's dirty little fingers playing all of its dirty little games. Finds you all at Alexander's on 57th. It's a little Greek restaurant that the family has been involved with since the late 30s. It has been one restaurant after the other until then. And since then, one singular family, the Alexanders, have owned it. They do a great breakfast. They do a mimosa brunch on Sundays. And they've become an institution, a little touch of home for the many college students that flow in and out of the area that don't have that anymore. They're cost effective and the portions are large enough to get filled without going overboard. The extra calories saved solely for flavor. They are a half a block from Powell's bookstore, which is it's the other library that most of the college students use. And by other library, it is nowhere near a library. It is a used and rare bookstore. But because of how they set themselves up, there's an upstairs and there's a downstairs, and the spaces between the shelves are small and intimate, and there are beanbag chairs here, window ledges there, tables set up where you can lean and read. And so many of the college students take advantage of that. They'll bring their thermoses filled with coffee, refills from Target when they go to refills from the Starbucks at the Target that they go to get the refills, because as long as you're a Target customer, the Starbucks inside Targets will give you refills as needed. It's a seldom taken up option, but the college students have learned the many ways of saving a buck. And so they'll get their Starbucks, then they'll make their way to Powell's, and they'll read books that they can't afford to buy, both for fun and for class. Sometimes those two things overlapping. And when they've read their fill or spent too long in Powell's, they'll make their way to Alexander's, and for a decent price get filled for the day. And so the reason why the space is chosen by the motley of Hyde Park is because there is a warmth, there is a acceptance of all sorts, and there is very much the feel of a hearth. There's the feel of being home, which is a rare feeling for each and every one of the Lost, because they don't belong anywhere. So feeling welcomed and accepted, it is a salve for their broken, fractured souls. So as everyone settles into the booth, as the waitress comes by, dropping off cups of coffee and cream, sugars, and knowing that you all will be a while if you order anything, but not really caring. It is a slower night, so campers are welcomed. Gives them something to do and some interest, even if it's just watching people watch themselves. How or whom is starting the many conversations needed?
First scene is kind of like when everybody came in. Maybe see for Harmony, she doesn't know Harmony as well. She would have kind of thrown herself into their arms and squeezed the head of Kira and Hazel. She died and then sitting with them, waiting for everybody to be seated. The mall. I know that we felt what happened the other day. I know it. And but I finally found where Ty worked. And then his new boss or whoever it is that works at that place apparently maybe was protecting one of the girls, and he got killed by the new owner. There seems to be something strange. Hold on. Is that better?
Much better.
much.
Okay, sorry, but I had moved it to the side a little bit because I was reaching for something and didn't want to bump it. But anyway, sorry. And it appears that they got into some sort of fight. But the thing is, the girls all seem strange. Like they keep forgetting what happened. The one girl said that they took Tyke's body away in a truck with these guys with brown and gold uniforms to somewhere in Dalton. And whatever it was that killed Tyke, you know it took strength to do. It seems like there's something about this guy, this Sweetie Pepper, they kept calling him, that made it so that he was able to hurt Tyke. And again, you know Tyke could take a lot of damage. It took some sort of, I don't know what did this. The way it felt was wrong. Familiar, but wrong. So I don't know what we're going to do about it or if we should do anything about it, but that's where my head is and what I found out. I also found a way to move back into my place, not my apartment, but the apartment at the base of it. And my fish were there. So that's a small bit of happiness, I guess.
I'm very glad that your fish are okay. And perhaps the issue with Tyke, I'm sure we can probably do some recon.
Well, I don't know who Tyke is, but there are many strange things happening these nights. Something going on in the school that bodes ill and it needs to be stopped.
The school?
The college, yes. At least I think it was a college.
The university, same difference.
Did you find out what it might be, or are we going to investigate?
It could certainly warrant further investigations for more details, but it seems Mr. Wednesday has sunk his fingers into something or someone there.
Yep.
You remember him, the guy with all the mecha mouses?
Kids.
I'd hate to pile one more problem onto all of this, but, well, unrelated to all of this, I just found out that my stepmother is apparently not human. And I'm worried that they are going to harm my father. I don't know what to do about that.
What do you mean by not human?
I don't know if they're one of us, or if they are one of the Fae from the other side of the hedge, but they are not human. I saw them shift and change when they were away from my father.
Shift and change how?
Into a... It's hard to describe what exactly they turned into, but it was definitely not human by the time it was finished, and it began to converse with something in a mirror. I left at that point because I didn't want to be seen by whatever was on the other side.
Like a mirror skin?
What do you mean, mirror skin?
Like what I do.
So
No. Not like that.
I see.
Earlier in our time as changelings and talking amongst others, have we ever heard of anything that would sound like a mirror skin, but not quite? What's up with that?
There's a often trotted out quote from Hamlet about the many wondrous things in heaven and earth. And that very much is where you all are, because there's nothing impossible. You all, in your varied times across the hedge, have experienced improbably impossible things. And each time you believe you have the full weight of what could and might exist, something else appears. Something else is breathed into existence. So, the question is, what do you believe it might be? Because there's a chance that that may be it, or it is in fact something heretofore unheard of.
Did it feel like one of us? Because we normally know we can feel if it's like us, even if it's not exactly the same flavor.
I think it's... Whatever it was related to the Fae. I don't know if it was a changeling like one of us, or if it was something else from across the hedge. That's the only thing I'm unsure of. I know it's related to what we are in some way.
And where is this?
At my house.
Which is where?
Effectively in what is known as the Kenwood area of Chicago. Most people wouldn't know the difference between the Kenwood area or Hyde Park. Locals do. They know that it is technically outside of what Hyde Park is, and it is not far from the Blackstone Library. It's right around the corner from Shoesmith Elementary School, which is the feeding ground into Kenwood Academy, Hyde Park Academy, blah, blah, skippy boo boo. It is a upper middle class area of Chicago. The former home of Muhammad Ali is right down the street from Kira's home, right there on 49th and Kimbark.
Whose territory is that?
Technically, it is not a territory. It's a outlying, contiguous part of Hyde Park. And while you all know that it is effectively, officially outside of Hyde Park, as pseudo locals and naturalized locals, you are one of the few who understand that difference. Most who've just come back from across a hedge, or those who are not from the area, consider it part and parcel of Hyde Park itself. It's a contested area. You all don't really have a reason to patrol it, protect it, or otherwise, but it is close enough that anyone outside of you all would expect it to be your domain, your territory, your temporary freehold.
Harmony will say, well, this seems like an immediate sort of problem, at least to investigate. Perhaps it's time for a little annexation.
You're planning to take over my house?
No, but where your house sits is technically no one's territory, nominally part of Hyde Park, but not part of Hyde Park. So I wouldn't be stepping on any toes, but if I'm going to go investigate a problem in that, I'm sure as hell going to take credit for it.
Well, that's fair. As long as my family's safe, you can take whatever territory you want. I just don't want my father to get hurt. He's quite literally all I have left of my family.
Of course. Then she will look to Hazel and say, and what horrible news do you have?
Not a lot, really. I still have my apartment.
And having your apartment is horrible?
No, I said not really. Horrible news.
So you're not a match set then?
I'm sure I can dig up something if you really want.
I mean, I felt like I had enough. I just figured there was another shoe.
What's your horrible news?
The university was my horrible news.
Yeah, I think I caught that part. And the fact that Mr. Wednesday is still doing Mr. Wednesday shit. I'm guessing that's part of that.
It is. The last thing we want is him to have a great influence over dreamers who are coming up and to bring more of his kind, the Reavers, into this area.
As for my bad news, obviously, it's a matter of what we choose to do next. I mean, technically, now that we know, we could just mourn him in our own way and let it go. Or we could get revenge for who killed him, which sounds like it would be a little bit hard due to the fact that the girl was very, very scared of this Sweetie Pepper person. But that's something we can decide another night. Your family thing is very much more important, I would think. So if we're going to handle anything, that maybe that one first, and then we can sweep back around to the university and figure out what's going on with that.
It makes sense to me. As sad as it is, there's nothing we can do to make your comrade any more alive.
Do you guys need more coffee?
That would be lovely, dear. Thank you.
I'll take 2.
Sure thing. Where's your big guy?
Kind of looks at Hazel and the lip starts quivering.
He's not terribly large, but I left him at home.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but our desserts today are on sale. Can I interest you guys into one of the pies? We have pecan, and there's a parsimon, and then we have a really nice lemon cream.
That lemon cream sounds delightful.
Excellent. I'll bring that right over. And she looks at the 2 cups in front of Kira. You know what? We have a monkey bowl with handles. You want me to bring that instead of both of those?
I have never heard of a monkey bowl. What does it look like? Does it look like a monkey?
No, it's usually for small servings or sides. But the owner's son has been getting some of our equipment from, and she pauses and looks around and making sure that she's out of earshot, like some less than reputable sources. Like, for a while he was going over to Restaurant Depot, and then there's this guy that drives a white panel van that's just been showing up, dropping things off. It's weird. It's not a normal monkey bowl, but I just want to know if you guys want to know. But that's fine. Let me go get the pie. I'll be right back.
How depressingly cheerful.
I missed that.
Oh, Harmony said, how depressingly cheerful.
Entirely. Normally that wears off, usually in a couple of days, because while the ambiance of the place and while the feeling of the place is one of welcome and home, it is extraordinarily hard on the staff. They keep working, they keep running. On the busy days, they're literally nonstop the entirety of their shift. And as per the case, with mostly serving college students and university students and faculty and what have you, the tips aren't extraordinarily large. So it is a burden that they carry, usually. And so the chipperness, the willingness to serve, eases some. Yet for her, she has been here going on most of a year, and nothing's changed. Nothing's diminished. If anything, in fact, her need and want to serve and her upbeat personality have only gotten brighter.
So we're having some dessert and then saving his father, or are we just going to save his father? Or I'm unclear.
I need dessert.
I at least want some coffee so I can stay awake for what we're about to do.
All right. Who am I to judge?
Who indeed? Because as you all are sitting there, she's getting the coffee, she's bringing over the pie, and again, it's a lighter than average evening. The place is a little bit quieter than usual. As you all are deciding what steps to take for the remainder of accomplishing a goal tonight, you've all spoken lightly and loosely on some of the things that are weighing on yourselves. And without realizing it, each of you were bracing for the other shoe. Harmony going so far as to actually voice and what next and what horrors found. Speak of the devil and he shall appear is a often tossed off chestnut. It's an aphorism that everyone knows and understands, even those amongst us who are, instead of agnostic or faithful, are actually 100% atheists. None of that matters. But even they toss off that chestnut. Even they understand the meaning of it. By focusing on an issue, the answer, the result, the source of it will happen along. It's like owning a red Kia. The moment you own a red Kia, all you will see on the road are red Kias. Like attracts like. So as you all sit there, are grabbing your coffee and dessert, making plans, the door swings open and it catches everyone's attention. Unlike most modern doors, there's no chime, there's no bell, there's no jingling bits of something to attract the attention. Alexander's is old school, so when the door opens, the door opens. Whoever walks in takes your time, and we'll get to you when we get to you. When the host is there, you'll be sad as they have the opportunity to get to you. There's no reason to have any of those common affected little things to draw the attention to the door. There's no need for everyone to, hey, welcome in. Or as everyone's leaving, be blessed. Be well. Thanks for coming. No, it's an old family style restaurant. So it's, hey, how you doing? You know, the usual small talk when they get to you. So as your attention is drawn towards the door, as it swings open, and a older looking gentleman walks in with a mighty fine, well-made red trench coat, one eye hazel, the other, strangely enough, a bluish, almost sea color. His cane tapping out his pace. Those gloves on his hand standing out as the weather is broken and no one wears leather gloves inside. Yet here he enters, and on his elbow, a dark-haired woman about 5'6", 5'7", her hair cut into a very severe and well-maintained bob, several jewels gleaming around her neck, several large jewels gleaming from her fingertips and bangles on both wrists. The moment they enter, the room grows colder, even though there's nothing unseemly about them. And they settle at a booth about 4 from where you're sitting. The older gentleman with the cane, sitting with his back to you. And you're not sure why you're focusing on them, why it stands out that a middle-aged and older couple would be spending an evening at a place like Alexander's, but it does. It holds your attention. As if some sixth sense abounds. Something pointing you in that direction. Something saying, aha. It's only as they sit quietly murmuring amongst themselves and seems all but invisible to the waitress, who's super happy and pleasant, and bounces back with dessert and more coffee, sitting an actual carafe, a metal carafe on the table for you all to pour your own desserts, to pour your own coffee, to pour your own little bits of warmth as you need. And she bounds back to the kitchen. And the counter girl, who was wiping down the counters and doing little prep work for them to get ready to close in several hours, gets busy in her work. And the other tables that were quietly around you, finishing up their meals and leaving, some seeming to do so as if they forgot something. In the diner, the restaurant grows quieter than it had been, your voices carrying nearly above everyone else's. And then you hear the woman speaking to him for the first time, audibly, because the diner is growing quieter. But do you think the professor will allow that to happen? Well, if we wait, we'll have the answer to our question. We have been looking for the hidden ones for long enough this evening. And while it keeps pointing in this area, we can't hunt on the professor's territory without at least asking and offering our services.
Aurora looks at Harmony and leans extra close so that they are not overheard, dropping their voice. Pretend they're whispering. Didn't you say something about a professor or something at the college? I wonder if they know something about that.
They have my attention.
Abraham, I hate to tell you the obvious, but it seems as if we're not the only ones that are hanging on your every word. And she nods past him. And he chuckles softly, his bass voice rumbling the table and the ground around him. Throwing his arm over the back of the booth, he looks over his shoulder at your table, then back to her. So we're not here for college children. And no matter what they believe they might overhear, we can make sure that they forget. Of course, Regent.
Aurora very carefully looks at Harmony but doesn't say anything else, and then looks to Kira because they know Kira normally keeps a paper and pen, and she makes some writing motion.
And Kira has already been making a note of this.
Harmony will spin the knife back into her sleeve quietly and stand up and say, "If you'll excuse me," and she'll pointedly walk by them and into the bathroom.
There are benefits to being changeling that most take for granted, including you all on multiple occasions. The heightened perceptions, the quick twitch muscles, the occasionally faster healing. All the things that come naturally and normally to you. The extended lifespan, the ability to starve and feed off of emotion. The ability to not be put down so very easily. All of these things that come naturally and you take for granted come into play now. As Harmony walks past the table and Kira's pen slides across the paper, and Hazel and Aurora are taking in as much of what's happening around them as possible. The world seems to slow as the lady sitting in the booth is suddenly blocking Harmony's path. And the old man who needed the cane to enter, who clearly was leaning on it, who was clearly using it, is suddenly at your table's edge. The movement happening as if they were suddenly teleported. And while your table is not exactly across town, the space and distance between you two is in fact far enough where you, at the very minimum, you should have seen them moving. 40 feet of space covered in a blink of an eye is not something that is normally done. Not even by the changeling. Faster than normal though they generally are. Your senses and perceptions higher than every semblance of what the mortal average is. Your ability to pick up words and sounds from huge distances, and you didn't see them move. And as Harmony's path is blocked by Aristotle, and the table is beset by Mr. Abraham Dusable, with a almost dun 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 moment hanging over everyone's head, I'd like to thank you for a lovely episode, and I'll see you guys next time.
Next time on Soup City Sins Obscura. The Motley is taken in for experimentation.